Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Janine, and I work as a scientific researcher at Agroscope in Switzerland. First of all, a huge thank you to the organizers. I'm really happy to present to you today. I will talk about the study we did last year investigating forecasts for the adoption of precision agriculture enabling technologies in Swiss outdoor vegetable production. First of all, why did we look at vegetable farming? In Switzerland, and compared to other production branches, high levels of adoption can be found in vegetable farming. So in comparison, the levels are higher in vegetable farming than in other production branches. We wanted to find trends for the future and answer the question, what technologies can be used in the future and will be used? Further, we looked at drivers and barriers of technology adoption, and we wanted to know how and if we can support the adoption of new technologies. For this, we conducted a Delphi study, which makes use of experts. It's important to note that all the experts remain anonymous throughout the whole study. This enables them to provide their answers without being afraid of one person dominating the discussion or other social interactions. So they are free to provide their opinions in an anonymous way. The aim of the Delphi method is that the experts come to a consensus. So usually the Delphi study consists of multiple rounds, which enables the experts to come to a consensus. For precision agriculture enabling technologies, we use the term digital technologies to make it easier comprehensible. Here you can see an overview of the method used. First, in a preparation state, we selected possible experts. These potential experts were contacted and asked whether they were willing to participate in a 2-round Delphi study. We decided to do only 2 rounds because it needs less time, and we hoped that participants were willing to complete these 2 rounds. Information about the time frame and the data collection was also provided to the experts. And finally, they were informed that the study would focus on digital technologies in the domain of vegetable farming. Next, for the data collection, we decided to do an online survey. In the first round, we invited 34 experts. The survey consisted of open-ended questions and closed-ended questions, which were mostly statements that the experts were asked to rate. 30 out of these 34 experts answered, so this is a quite high response rate. And experts had 2 weeks to complete the survey. After 1 week, we sent a reminder to non-responders to remind them to participate. After the 2 weeks, the survey was closed. We then had 1 week for data analysis and afterwards continued with the second round. In the second round, we had the remaining 30 participants who completed the first round. They were provided with an anonymous feedback on the results from the first round. So this gave them a possibility to adapt their answers if they felt they wanted to. So we asked them for re-evaluation of the questions. And all the open-ended questions from the first round were transferred to closed-ended questions. So they just chose from the answers provided in the first round and didn't have again the opportunity to type answers. Again, response rate was quite high, with 26 out of 30 experts. And again, they had 2 weeks to complete the survey. For the Delphi method, it's also important to have a heterogeneous sample. So here you can see the experts we selected. We made sure that they came from different areas of work. For instance, we had farmers, input suppliers, intermediates, like people from politics or the media, people from research, and also people from advisory. And here you can see the overall response rate over both rounds, which is high with 76%. Let's now move on to the results. In terms of promising technologies and applications, we asked the question to experts, in your opinion, what will be the most promising digital technologies in the domain of outdoor vegetable farming? Experts were asked to make 3 mentions, and the answers were free text. So they typed their answers in the fields provided. Here you can see the results for the promising technologies, and we find that here for round 1 in orange and round 2 in blue, there was a small change between the rounds. So we see that robots and autonomous machines are the most frequently named technologies in the first round. And then in the second round, GPS and RTK were a bit more often mentioned. These values are percentages because the number of experts change between the 2 rounds because not all of them answered. Next, we find sensor, which was frequently mentioned, and camera technology or image recognition. It's interesting to note that drones seem to play a minor role in vegetable farming. There's also truck tires and digital weather stations, which is not that often mentioned here on the bottom. Moving on to promising applications, we find that the most promising application in view of the experts is weed control or hoeing. It's followed by data collection, monitoring of diseases, pests, and so on, which is also mentioned by around 50% of all experts. Then we find precision, exact application, and irrigation. And the other ones are received only a few mentions. Moving on to experts' forecast for technology adoption, we find here 4 different technologies which we presented to the experts. We have driver assistance systems, fertilization, irrigation, and hoeing. We provided the experts with the adoption numbers for the year 2018, which we had from a previous study. So experts knew how many farms in Switzerland already used these technologies in 2018. These are the numbers here. So 70% for driver assistance systems, for instance. And then experts were asked to estimate how the adoption rates would develop in the future. And you can see here that for driver assistance systems, they think that it will grow to almost 90% in 10 years. Huge increases are also estimated for irrigation and hoeing, which you can see here. And a bit smaller increases are estimated for fertilization. But still, they think that all those technologies will develop quite quickly in the future. Moving on to drivers and barriers of adoption, we asked the experts whether, in their opinion, what the most important drivers and barriers for the use of digital technologies in outdoor vegetable farming are. Again, they were asked to make 3 mentions. We can see here for the drivers, again, results for round 1 and 2, that resource saving is clearly the most important driver. So this was mentioned by 90% of all respondents in round 2. Here, 50% each, we find precision and lower costs or more revenue. For the barriers, we find that, again, costs are mentioned quite frequently. So the high costs and the fact that technologies are perceived as too expensive is the most often mentioned barrier for technology adoption. Here on second place, we have the fact that technologies are perceived as prone to failure or not sufficiently reliable or mature. Less frequently mentioned is that experts think just not enough expertise, training, or knowledge to handle the technologies. This already brings me to the conclusion. For technologies with huge potential, we found that hoeing and irrigation are on top. So we believe that probably due to challenges of the future, like climate change and resource saving, hoeing and irrigation will even gain in importance. And then for possible ways to support adoption, first of all, we think that financial support is an important topic. We saw that both in the domain of drivers and barriers, the finances play an important role. Then training and education is an important way to teach new technologies and make farmers familiar with the handling of these technologies. And similarly, practical relevance. This will help deal with the perception of technologies are prone to failure and not mature enough. More practical relevance will help demonstrate this and that these technologies do work and that they are not that difficult to handle. With that, I'm coming to an end, and I thank you very much for your attention. And please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I would be happy to discuss it with you.